Hey guys, welcome to the Revive Stronger podcast, Revive to Stage. With me, Pascal Floor, and my mate, Steve Hall, on the other side, who's not sitting in London this time, who's sitting at his old room where he grew up, as you can see on his posters in the background. Really, really lovely room.
Awful room.
And this time I'm going to interview Steve again about his past weeks, what has happened, and I know that a lot of things has happened in terms of preparation for your show because it's getting closer and closer. I think you're now 7 weeks out, right?
7.
7 weeks out from the first show, the MPA show in
Tunbridge.
Thank you very much. And the closer you get to the show, the more preparation you actually have to do. And it's not about dieting anymore. And this is something I want to talk with you about. All the preparation that needs to be done leading up for the first show or all the consecutive shows as well. So, Steve, just give me a small background first of any adjustments, anything that has happened in the past 2 weeks, like scale weight, training in the gym. Have you done anything else in the past 2 weeks? And then we can dive into, all about the preparation.
Cool. So I'm actually at my home in Harpenden, which is just outside of London. And I have, for those not watching, I have Alan from The Hangover behind me and Simpsons posters behind me. And if you could see, I have some Pokemon cards stuck to, I've like shiny Mewtwo and Machamp on my board back there, which I have no idea why. Also, actually, out of interest, I did show Pascal my old trophies when I did place in some natural bodybuilding shows a few years ago. So I'm hoping to get some bigger and better ones of those. Those were.
Everyone's a winner, right?
True. If you've improved, you're winning. So
exactly.
To touch on the last 2 weeks, it's really kind of, I always feel disappointed in myself that not a lot's changed, which is, it's actually really good how just consistent things are for me. And I think it's a really good thing because it just makes my life a lot easier. So I haven't changed my macros. I'm still sitting at 190 to 200 protein, still sitting at 280 to 290 carbs, and 50 to 55 fat. So that's like 2,400, 2,500 calories. Plenty of food. It's really not a struggle right now, which is great. Feeling really hungry just now, but other than that, it's really not that bad, which is great. I haven't changed my day-to-day nutrition. Looks very similar. And actually on that point, if people are interested, I thought it might be interesting for people, and I haven't passed this by Pascal till now, do a day of eating. I wondered if it would be interesting, if people would be interested to see, Steve, what do you eat on a day? Where do you get your macros from? Why are you eating this meal at this time? Blah, blah, blah. I just thought it could be something that might be of interest to people watching because they get to hear about everything,
definitely.
But they don't get to... We talk about our macros, but we don't talk about, what we're actually specifically eating. And I show it on Instagram now and then, but I don't really go into detail of I'm having this at this time because of this, or this is why I'm choosing this, because there is more to it, especially when I'm training twice a day. Some of my choices are not what I want to pick, and it's more for performance. So an intra-workout shake.
I think that's actually a pretty good idea, especially the point you've touched on with training twice daily. Because you have to really nail your nutrition when it comes to that, making sure everything around your peri-workout nutrition is on point so that you are actually able to hit the gym fresh again without being too bloated because of all the veggies or something. So, and when you're dieting, it can be a struggle then, I guess, right?
Yeah, there's a real balance between that. So I think that would be interesting, and I'd be up for. It's not so much effort to just record what I'm eating and then I'll do a voiceover or something. I think that would be quite nice. And I need to use my fancy camera somehow. So that would be cool. So if people are interested, drop us a comment below. If you do want to see that, then we can get that going. That would be really cool. And I think I thought it would be interesting to see also what Pascal eats versus what I'm eating. It may well have changed by the time Pascal does his. But we can talk about that in a bit. So yeah, my macros are the same. Cardio, I'm increasing each of my cardio sessions by about 10. Well, my cardio is LISS, so low intensity steady state. It's increasing by about 10% every week, just to kind of get round adaptions that could be taking place. So whereas I was doing, it sounds weird, I do 11 sessions of cardio, but it's because they're split between AM and PM, so it just sounds like a lot. So I started at 50 calories per session. Next week was 60. Now I'm on 70 per session. So I think I'm on like 770 calories this week. And next week I'll go to 80, and then I'll kind of recycle the process as like bring it down during my deload week. So I kind of get rid of some of those adaptions that have taken place.
On that note, just a quick question. Do you really think that those small increases on a weekly basis will make some kind of a difference in terms of the adaptations of your body?
I think,
or is it more of an experiment right now to see if it really does make a difference, or if you for the future know, okay, I just need to get in 2 times cardio done. Just give us a little bit of insight.
It's certainly an experiment. It's not just we know the body adapts. It gets better and more efficient at burning calories. So I'm kind of thinking 10% isn't a huge increase. Maybe the body adapts by 10%, probably not even that much. And I don't do this with all my clients, mind you. It's kind of a self-experiment. We know also that other adaptations take place. So if I can increase my kind of cardio calories, maybe it makes up for some of those. So it's more of a, right, my adaptation to this calorie deficit is happening, so my calorie deficit actually is decreasing week to week potentially. So if I do a little bit more cardio, it should help burn those extra calories away. Is it actually going to? I don't know. It's such a small increase that I'm happy to do it. And so, yeah, it's more of a side experiment than anything else. In the past, I've just kept it level week to week. I don't think that's a problem either. Of course, you're just looking at scale weight progression, which I will come on to next. But so if your scales go in the right direction, I don't think there's any need to try and like chase the adaptions that are happening. It's kind of like with your calorie surplus, I guess. Like some people will increase their calories from like carbs week to week within a hypertrophy mesocycle, and you're just chasing those adaptions, but you don't know. Go on, sorry.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of the nutritional periodization, I think that it only makes sense if you always eat the same meals and same foods and not have a great variety in it, because otherwise there will be a fluctuation because of the margin of error in the food label or on the food labels as well. So it will mitigate the whole process and necessity of periodizing your nutrition. So it only really makes sense when you're kind of in a robotic state and always eating the same meals and same food. And I think the same holds true for cardio. When you're doing it on a consistent basis, same place, same circumstances and all that kind of stuff, then perhaps, why not? I mean, could potentially have some benefits to it. I think this will only show in hindsight, right?
Yeah, I mean, I'll just see how it goes, because like you said, it's only if you're controlling everything else. So like my steps, I'm controlling those, like they're the same day to day basically. They're basically like 10 to 12,000 during the week and then like 15,000 on the weekend. So for example, you could be increasing your cardio, but then you compensate and do less steps. So you could easily mitigate these changes that you're trying to make, because the body's fucking clever and sneaky trying to keep you the same. That's actually, talking of nutrition, it's really, now I'm looking more at foods and being like, do I think that's accurate? Or like, if something is as cooked per example, then I'm like, I might start chopping those out. So something that pissed me off this week was beef. I think I told you. It's like, what?
This is exactly what I was thinking of.
Like 95%, well, it says typically 5% lean beef. It's like, all right, already I'm like, fuck this. Typically 5%. I need this to be fucking 5%, mate. So it's typically 5%. And then it gives me the nutrition per 100 grams cooked as per instructions. And the instructions say like, cook it, then drain the fat. And I'm like, but like, what? This is not cool. Like, I don't want to have to do this. Like, I'm not eating the entire pack right now, and I don't trust.
There's this one thing with our pudding, right? The sachets. Like, calories per instruction. Fuck you guys, because I'm not doing it as written on the sachet itself. And I actually reached out to the company itself to ask for the real macros to have it to have it at hand. I mean,
and now you have to trust that they're telling the truth.
Yeah, and why make it as complicated as this? Why not simply make it a norm to put on 100 grams per sachet or per package, and that's about it. Raw, yeah.
So yeah, that wound me up, and it wound me up to a point. And this little things like this, I don't know if people would be able to relate. So like, I cooked up all my beef, I then weighed it, and then I wanted to portion it out. So like, cooked it up, weighed it, and then I wanted like 5 portions of. I used raw values from the USDA, like typical 5% lean beef, and then cooked it, then split it out into the portions I wanted. But then, because over time, I guess it cools down, maybe it absorbs water, I don't know, the weight changes. So I'd been thinking, every portion that I wanted was 100 grams of cooked. And then my last portion came out and I was like, shit, I've got 80 grams, fuck's sake. That means I've been overeating those days, undereating this day. I mean, it's tiny differences. But I mean, with protein, it's the one you don't really want to over or underdose too much. Like, you kind of want the right amount. But yeah, little things like that, at this point, like, generally they don't matter. But at this point in my contest prep, they're just like little nuances that pee me off.
And also in terms of the macros and the macro split is more important for you because you're now in a hypercaloric state and also so close to the show, and you're training twice a day. So you want to make actually sure to get more carbs in and really make sure to actually get them instead of having a higher protein intake, because protein, I mean, it's all well in terms of muscle retention, but the biggest stimulus for actual muscle retention is the resistance training itself. So I would actually say rather I would slash some protein and increase some carbs to hit it hard in the gym, or being able to actually do a little bit more volume, because this will more likely hold on to your muscle mass than those 10 or 20 grams of more protein.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, little things, I agree. I think a lot of people get that the wrong way around. They're like, just like increase your protein. Like, I'm at 190 to 200. That is probably overkill, really. Like, I can bring that down, which is fine, and I would be willing to do that. I'd probably prefer to bring that down over carbs right now. I wouldn't go loads lower, but I could certainly go a bit lower. But yeah, it's little things like I'm weighing out I get crumpets. I don't know. Do you eat crumpets, Pascal?
No.
Oh, you don't have crumpets? Well, they're bloody delicious. From an Englishman to the rest of you, they're so nice. Like, I just toast them and they're so nice. But these, like, typically 54 grams. I weigh one, it's like 60 grams. It's like, right, like these little things, if every single food is slightly out by this amount, fuck me, this could be an extra like 100, 200 calories every day. Now, I'm not talking about like chewing gum. I don't think it's such, like, these are tiny amounts of calories that I think they're not going to really be anything. But stuff like, big weight differences from, because you'll see on the, even like tins of tuna, it'll be like typically like the E by the gram number of drained weight is an estimate. So it says 160 grams drained amount of tuna, but then you'll weigh it out and it'll be like 150 grams. And you're like, so I'm actually getting less, and some things will be more. So, what did you want to say, Pascal? I know you had a point.
Also, because so many people are just like, I'm eating the protein bars like Carb Killers or Quest bars. I mean, go ahead and weigh them. It's not like 60 grams per protein bar. Most of the time, actually, it is around 70, in my experience. And I mean, this can make a big difference, actually, when you're ingesting that on a daily basis together with some other mistakes or errors throughout the day. This can accumulate, and I mean, you can easily overeat by 100 to 200 calories per day, and this can, in a contest prep, make a huge difference.
Yeah, it could just skew progress, which is really really crap. Actually, I was just going to say, Grenade Carb Killers, they seem to be on point. I've been eating like now and then like half of one before bed, and I've been just cutting them in half and weighing out. It's like, it's 30 grams, perfect. Like, they actually are right. But yeah, so other cereal bars can be out. Like,
yeah, totally. perhaps Quest Bars is more that lifestyle thingy, and the Carb Killers is more like for performance athletes and the physique athletes. So they make actually really sure that it's on point. I don't know. I just had the peanut butter and the white chocolate ones, and they are holy fucking shit. They are amazing. Yeah.
Yeah. They're really good.
I mean, all the other Carb Killers are just like, meh. I was a little bit disappointed because so many people just talk so highly about them, and I was just like, okay, that's not the best protein bar I've ever had. But then I tasted actually the peanut butter ones and the white chocolate ones, and they are just like, holy crap.
Yeah.
But anyway,
the white chocolate one's fucking awesome. I love that one.
Yeah. But anyway, that's not what we wanted to discuss, right?
So yeah, I think as a listener, what you can take away from that is in prep, that's when you need to be that precise with things. Outside of prep, I think it all works itself out. Some things will be under, some things will be over. But in prep, you kind of need that precision.
Totally.
And the only other way around it is either weigh everything out, like I have been doing, or you just keep your diet literally the same, so you know, okay, it doesn't really matter because it doesn't matter if it's wrong or right. I'm manipulating these variables, so you keep that down. But I think that has its own drawbacks in itself. In that, like, yeah, you get micronutrient deficiencies and things like this. It's just not very flexible. But things do get less flexible. But anyway, should I touch on training wise? Has been pretty good. I'm still progressing with movements through the weeks, accumulating volume. I've definitely found my back can take a ton of volume. I can just keep pounding back, especially with some machine movements, like the volume you can get out on machines. You can just keep going. My squats, I guess on paper it looks like they've taken quite a massive hit in terms of loading. But because of my knee and hip injury, I've really had to change how I'm squatting. So, like, in the past, I would have probably done, like, high bar squats or low bar squats, and my depth wouldn't have been anywhere near as what it is now. Like, I'm getting big depth, so that in itself is more hypertrophic stimulus. You're getting more range of motion, hitting more muscle fibers. And at the moment, I'm doing, like, slow eccentric squatting, followed then by down sets of just normal squatting. To get out extra volume, because the eccentric squats are really fucking tiring, because even just going down and controlling it like 3 to 5 seconds, it's like, wow, like this is so yesterday I did 3 eccentric squat sets and then 4 down sets, but I'm using it's much lighter than what I'm used to, but my quads are still, I don't know, they're still getting very sore. They're still kind of being fine. So,
man, just to give you a little bit of insight, in the past when I was working together with Mike Teixeira, there was one block of my mesocycle in which I needed to do tempo squats, like 3 seconds down, 3 seconds up. And I needed to do it. And here comes the kick in her. Needed to do it for reps for 16 minutes up to 20 minutes, depending on the block, like if it was a high volume week or not. Like, do it for 16 minutes, push out as many reps as you can. It was horrible.
Damn.
Horrible. But I mean, look at my quads now. I mean,
it has paid some dividends. So
yeah, definitely.
God damn it. The thing I'm struggling with, I'm progressing with every movement. I'm finding that I think in future my pressing movements is going to be more of a holding onto scenario. I think this is very typical of a lot of competitors. They seem to lose their pressing movements first. My bench, I can just feel it. Like sometimes, like I've got a 2 RIR program, 2 reps in reserve, and I know I'm pushing to that 1. And I'm like, Steve, like this is going to start biting you in the ass. So I'll have to see. I'm probably going to switch away from these bigger compound movements a little bit as I progress nearer and nearer to stage. So probably be on dumbbells and stuff like that by the time I get like to September time, just because they're easier to get out of volume and things like this. But yeah, overall training, nutrition, it's all going well. The only downside is probably the scale has not really been responding too much. So I think it has, the overall trend is down. It's definitely down, but it's just down slower than what I expected it to be. And now we know from past experience that when I first started prep again, like the same sort of thing happened. Like I didn't see this dramatic drop in scale weight, but my condition really improved.
Absolutely.
The lucky thing for me is, and Pascal knows more than anyone that I've been questioning myself and questioning whether, like, I haven't hugely been doing it, but I've definitely been like, should I make a change? I'm not completely sure. I don't want to rush things. And the good thing is, and Pascal always reminds me of this, is like I could step on stage now and not look out of place. Like I wouldn't look silly. Like I could definitely be way more conditioned than I am. I'm still holding on to fat on my my left glute and my left leg. My right leg still has some, but not as much as my left. Really weird.
Everything else on your body is shredded already.
And my back.
Except those two.
So yeah, everywhere else is pretty shredded, to be honest.
You're like the two-face of bodybuilding.
Yeah, front and back. Like my glutes from the rear could also improve. Like they need to come in, but like my hamstrings are popping. Like everything else is coming in. So I'm really happy with that progress. The scale just isn't responding too well. So maybe I'm just like growing into the show again, where I'm gaining muscle mass right now. But there could be an element of recomposition within this first mesocycle in that I have gone through low volume training for so long, and this is a big like drive of volume comparatively. So yeah, that's all going. So things are going pretty well. I'm actually just uploaded my physique update from this week to compare to 2 weeks ago. I haven't looked over and compared them, and nor has Pascal, but we're going to be doing that. And I'm actually really looking forward to what Pascal's got to say, like how I'm looking. Something that has changed with my physique is I have just shaved my legs. So, I know you were going to ask me about some preparation stuff, and I guess we're kind of delving into that now.
Yeah, I mean, you touched on it, so please continue.
I was looking for a breather. I was like, oh, I need Pascal to talk. I'm getting a dry mouth. No, I'm joking. So, yeah, I shaved my legs. I was just like, I think what had happened as we joked about it at the conference with you and Luke. And Luke was, I think he'd shaved completely actually for, he was doing some SBS like posing videos, so had to shave. And I was like, oh, should I shave my legs? And you were like, oh, I might book in a leg wax like next week to get it done. And it was like, I think I was meant to do a podcast with, it was Greg Nichols. So yeah, look forward to that. And Mike Israetel, and they'd called it off. And Charlotte wasn't home yet. And I was like, oh, I've got too much free time here. I'm just going to fucking shave my legs. So yeah, I've shaved them off.
Of course, what else to do, right?
And I think it's actually good doing it earlier rather than later, because I did it, I remember I was forced to do it basically before my photo shoot. I had a photo shoot with Simon Howard of SNH Photo in 2014. I shaved my legs, but then I came out in a rash, like all on my legs. You can see it if you look really close on my leg shots from that photo shoot, which is really annoying because it looks a bit weird. So yeah, it's good to do it early and exfoliate and stuff beforehand, because yeah, you can, not only do you get to see more definition potentially in your legs, you get to see the changes a bit more clearly. You actually kind of, yeah, your body gets used to it. It's not a stress. You don't kind of come out in rashes anymore. So I've clippered my legs, at least. I haven't used a razor yet on them, so it's not super close. And I think apart from looking incredibly pale, they might look a little bit leaner, and it's a little bit easier to see the feathers, or not the feathering, but the separation in the quads, which is quite nice. Haven't yet done my upper body or armpits. They don't seem to be as sensitive as the legs for some reason, or at least on me. But I'll probably do those in a few weeks' time. And I don't have a hugely hairy upper body anyway. And my back, I wouldn't need to touch. So that will depend on the competitor. I think the more hair you have, the earlier out you probably want to try and shave all these things.
I think it's really
No, go for it.
I think it's really interesting and good that you're actually reminding the people of learning from your mistakes in the past. Also that you want to actually get the shaving done not really close to the show, because stuff like that can happen. And I think that not many people think about that kind of fact. Of course, you can buy the Gillette Venus, put some like a virgin from Madonna on, and do a shaving session in the bathroom, and like a virgin, and then with a towel on your head, right?
And a few candles going.
Yeah, totally.
It was quite a relaxing event.
I think that not many people take care of those minute details.
Yeah, I think around 10 weeks out from your show is when you should really be thinking about, right, I need to pick my music now. I need to like have my posing routine virtually sorted. I need to start thinking about shaving, exfoliating. I need to think about having my posing trunks now, because you should be lean enough that you look quality in a pair of posing trunks. By 10 weeks out, this is when all those sort of minor details that have been on the back of your mind, but you've not really put pen to paper, that's when they should be lined out. And I think the same with like signing up to your shows. Probably from 10 weeks out, you're going to know if you're going to do it or not. So start signing up just so these stresses can be gone, because you don't want these close to stage. And that was a mistake I definitely made, as I like rushed exfoliating, rushed having my tan done. I didn't practice any of these things beforehand, and now it's like, right, I need to get these out the way so that I don't have to worry about it. So I've booked my tan for the UK DFBA already, with Nicola Gilbert. So anyone from the UK might know her. She's like the one known for doing good tanning. And I've got my posing trunks from last year already. They're just black. I had considered buying some like to go the Revive theme. Maybe we'll buy some orange ones as well.
That would be awesome. But it also, on that note, I think it's worth mentioning that it will always depend on your skin color and also your strength. I mean, if you have a really tiny waist, for example, you want to actually put some emphasis on it, that you really get that illusion going. Yeah. When this isn't the case, perhaps a black or something that isn't as severe or outstanding is a better option for you. And I think that all those kind of small, minor details people don't really take into consideration, or just push them in front of them up until the show, and then they get stressed out, which causes a lot of different other problems. And it's like preparing for an exam.
Yeah.
Right? There are those kind of people out there who push it in front of them, preparing for the exam itself, and then when the time comes, they are all about, okay, fuck, I need to get shit done now because the time isn't there anymore. And we all know that it stresses us out extremely much. And most of the time, you can't perform as good as you could when you were well prepared.
Yeah. No, totally. And I think it's a really good point that you brought that up, actually, with the posing trunks, because the reason I bought black in the first place for 2014 was because I know my waist is a weakness. I have a big fucking chunky waist. Like and this is actually good. This is going to come into a podcast later, but genetics, and like I know there's a lot of the measurement tools are to do with like wrist circumference, weight, like waist, ankles and wrists generally, and like neck. And if you have big, thick ankles and like wrists, it's a good sign that you can grow a lot of muscle, like you have a good potential. And I should have a good potential for muscle growth, because I have big chunky wrists, like my ankles are fucking huge. Like injury prevention stuff, like.
But it's all about the edema.
Yes.
That doesn't count, man.
Well, so yeah, anyway, actually, so yeah, the reason I went black is because I do want to make my waist look slimmer, which, for all you fashion gurus, you'll know what I'm talking about. And actually, my colouring from tanning, that's a good point as well. Like, what colour do you look like when you have a tan? I don't think I come out very well from a tan. I don't look great, but it is what it is. So I'll be getting a tan on the day from a professional. For the MPA, which is the one that's a bit sooner, I may have to do fake tanning for, like, buy some product, which I think I'm probably going to go with maybe Dark As, which I think, if people know AJ Morris, I think he's recommended that quite a lot. And because I had Pro Tan before, and that's the one I used the years before, and that was the one I got feedback of. I was not tanned enough, like I wasn't dark enough. And that Charlotte did the tanning, and she was really quite upset with that feedback, and like felt she'd really let me down. And I really don't want that to happen again. I really don't want the pressure to be on anyone else but me.
Is there anyone who recommended you a certain kind of color, or where do you know from what color fits your type of physique the best?
I think it's very much it's going to sound silly, like a trial and error thing. I don't think until you've done the tanning do you know what color you come out with. But I think, like you said, if you've got a small waist, accentuate it. Wear like bright red, like purple, well, maybe not purple, orange, those sort of colors, blue. But if you've got a big waist, like go dark black, go dark red, go dark blue, go purple. Those sort of colors are probably going to be best. So yeah, I think that's probably a wise decision. Yeah, when I picked mine out, I didn't really know what I was doing. I think it's a very minor detail, the trunks. But I
No,
thought,
I was more so talking about the tanning,
oh, I
the
see.
color of your tan.
I didn't really see any when I bought my tan in 2014. There might be choices now. I haven't actually looked. I didn't see any choice of color. It was just this is the like you buy. It was like a normal coating one, and then it had like a put on just before you go on stage, like this other one. But yeah, I don't remember seeing choices of like tanning products particularly. Maybe it's something that more experienced coaches would be able to look into a bit more, but I don't think there's a lot of choice. I don't think you can go too wrong as long as you buy one of the tanning products that a lot of people buy.
How is it in the UK? Is Dream Tan isn't allowed, right?
Yeah, that I haven't touched on Dream Tan because pretty much everywhere bans it. It's just because it gets everywhere, pretty much. It's like paint essentially. But I have seen actually. I do remember someone using Dream Tan in 2014 at the MPA. I think it was Harry Ranson, and he basically came in pasty as hell, and I was like, "What?" And then he just started. He got his mate to slap on Dream Tan, and he just like went. He was darker than me on stage, but when he sweat on stage, it came off, and it looked really bad. That happens a lot with people, so you do need to pick a good tan. I think the best fail-safe option is to go with the person that's doing the tanning on the day. It'll cost like 50, 60 quid or something. Just do it because it will remove a huge stress from you. You don't have to think about it. All you have to think about is being shaved and exfoliated and you're sorted. And I thought I'd just touch on the way I shave because I think might be interesting to some people. I tried Veet, or like the kind of the foam that removes hair and then you like scrape it off. Hated it. It didn't really work very well for me. I found the best option is to go with a like trimmer, get pretty short, and this is super easy, pain-free, and like really easy, and then use a shaver. So just like you'd shave your face, really. Like if I was to shave off this entire beard, I'd probably use scissors and then use a trimmer and then like shave it with a razor. I think that's
or the balls.
Yeah, I've not touched that area. You do have to be pretty trim though, because the little trunks you wear are very small, so you have to get pretty close.
So, sticking out the curly, disgusting hairs coming out of the sides.
Yeah, if you're super hairy, you need to trim that shit. And then, so what else have I done? So I've booked my tan, got kind of shaving underway. Been practicing posing more, as you know, so I've been coming home after my upper body AM sessions and just doing a round of posing in the mirror at home, just to kind of make sure. The biggest thing I find for me is making sure I switch on my quads, because they're the easiest thing to forget, and if you don't tense them in the right way, they will not look like they're doing anything. That I made a huge mistake back in 2014 with that. And in regards to shaving as well, you have to remove all your hair, including underarm hair, forearm hair, like anywhere where there's a decent amount of hair, remove it. You don't have to remove anything from your face or like that's covered, but I didn't remove my underarm hair, which has been touched on before.
Unless you're having a really muscular head, right?
You want to show off like forehead gains.
Yeah, like striations in the forehead.
Yeah, actually, people have been asking me what I'm going to do with my head hair. And if I'm keeping the beard, I'm pretty sure I'm going to keep the beard because I think it will draw attention to me, or I kind of hope it does.
Exactly.
And then I'm actually going to try and draw more attention to me and effectively go like a one on the sides and back, and then like a fat mohawk kind of. That's what I'm thinking, just to stand out a little bit more. I don't think standing out is a bad thing, like from your face, because I have a big grin on my face as well.
Hey, and the thing is that the people, even if it's kind of looking weird, or if it's on a daily basis when you're walking the street looking as a weirdo, the people, when you're on stage, this draws attention to you.
Yeah.
And the attention you receive, the people or the judges will then spend more time being focused on you. And when you leave the stage, they will think more about you than the other competitors, even though they might outperform you a little bit, perhaps.
And this is why, like, composure on stage is great, but you also need to like smile, have a look about you. So I don't want to just be blankly faced on stage, so I'm just going to look like every other competitor. So that's part of, like, you want good energy on your show day, so you can do that, because like we all know, like, when you feel like shit and you don't really want to smile and stuff, that's never good. And it's important to why you don't want to be like sore either on stage. But so the only other thing I've done in preparation is now pick my song. So if you follow me on Instagram, you would have seen I picked Cinderella Man from Eminem, his album Recovery, which was purposely done. So it's kind of, obviously the album's called Recovery, we're Revive Stronger. Cinderella Man's all about kind of having a second chance. And Pascal did me a great 60-second clip, which I've been like, you don't want to know how many times I've listened to it, and I'm like, fuck, this is so good. So yeah, actually, Pascal can probably talk to you a bit more about the song. Do you want to say a little bit about how you kind of did this? I don't know how much effort it took or what you did exactly, but
I mean, for the people out there who know my background, I'm coming from I did everything already in the past. No, but I was working in the music industry for quite some time, and when it comes to media production, so with all the clips we are doing for our podcast, with all the small, I don't know, on Instagram stories we have a teaser as well.
So
the intro, the audio now for Steve's song. Those are things I can take care of. I'm definitely not an expert when it comes to stuff like that, but it isn't really complicated. I have the software at home, and especially cutting a song and stitching it together is not really a big deal. And so not really any kind of magic I did there. It was simply, I consulted with Steve where he wants to have the cut and what is the most important part for him about the song. Then we've discussed about a little bit of what might be a good idea to set it up actually. And now it's a 60-second clip where you don't really hear any kind of lyrics or something, but more so. And the swearing is gone. Yeah, it's just a short clip in which Eminem actually says something, but it's not, when you're listening to the song, it's not that you really hear a lot of rapping there. It's more about the energy of the instruments and the composition itself, which is really important, so that you get on stage being confident about it. And I would always recommend you picking a song you feel really confident in, because we all know those kind of songs that you put on your headphones. You step outside the door and walk down the street and feel like Superman.
Yeah.
Like, hell yeah, come on, people, look at me, I'm the man. Yeah. And this is something you actually want to achieve when you're stepping on stage. Like, okay, guys, this is my 60-second thing. Take a look at me, and now I'm doing the shit here, right? And this is also important that you pick a song a couple of weeks out and don't really overuse it in terms of listening to it over and over again, because it takes away the stimulus effect. Because we've made an infographic about it in the past about using or periodizing music for your training session as well, because it can act like a stimulus. What I'm basically also doing with powerlifting competitors is that I'm not only periodizing their caffeine intake as a stimulus, but also the music. So leading up to a competition, I want them to actually drop the music when they're training. I think that Matt Perryman has written about it in his book, Squat Every Day.
Oh, did he?
That if every single day you don't... Yeah, I think so. I think it was there. I'm not quite certain now that you're questioning it.
No, I think he talks about like stressors and like don't always ramp yourself up. So yeah, I can imagine it did come up.
Exactly, because you want to actually pump yourself up when the time comes, so that when the time is there, competition is the best example for it, then you want to actually get all the stimuluses working. And that doesn't really happen if you do it every single day, such as let's take a powerlifting meet. you are training every single day with a high caffeine intake and pump up your music right before you approach the bar. You're always slapping your face,
Sniffing.
approach the bar, sniffing, yeah. And then you're going onto the platform itself, and there's not that kind of effect which could happen if you just taper it over the taper itself as well. Just leave it away for a week, and this brings me back to the point I was actually talking about. When you're picking your song for the show, don't overdo it and listening to that song each and every day. Of course, you need to pose for it, practice it. That's all well and done, but only keep it for the practice and don't really push up the volume too much. Only have it in the background so that you have the beats ready, so that you are moving fluently to the beat itself, to the rhythm. And when the time comes on competition day, they should push up the volume so that when you're getting on stage, you get some goosebumps, you are feeling fresh, and the stimulus kicks in, and you're ready to perform like a robot.
And yeah, I mean, I think I haven't got the song, I don't actually own it, so I'd only actually heard it fairly recently, and I haven't listened to it a great deal. So yeah, I think it will pump me up. And I just note that, so at the moment I'm stitching my poses together and my transitions, so I've kind of got a routine sorted. I practiced it a few times. I actually need to record it and kind of show Pascal, see what he thinks. And I haven't actually been doing it to music yet, so once I've got kind of my routine in my head, how I like it to look, I will then listen to music and kind of make it work and mold it to the music. But I think it's important. You basically just want something that's got a beat that gets you really riled up, because yeah, you could try and like pose perfectly to every single like, oh, it goes bang and you like do a bicep or whatever it might be. But at the end of the day, we're bodybuilders. We are artists, but we're not like dancers. And we're not on the Olympia stage, and this is natural bodybuilding. It's not like paying the bills. And it doesn't count towards my placing. So it's like, I want to look good. I want to kind of enjoy it. And I think putting some effort into it is going to make me enjoy it. But I'm not going to spend hours and stress about it.
Absolutely
it's just
not.
to have something there. And to do this, like you said already, like weeks out is important, because yeah, as you get closer to stage, you're not going to want to be stressing about having to learn this posing routine. You're not going to want to actually probably even practice, because you'll be tired. So if you can do it when you've got a bit more energy, you've got more kick about you, that's a good idea.
What would you recommend? When is the appropriate time to start actually posing, doing some more frequent posing practice? Like how far away from a show?
So actually, I have for my competitors, and I did do one for myself. I've like, along with my training and nutrition kind of, we've got this planner. We like periodize our clients' training and nutrition together. I have like below it a planner for posing. So I have like, at this point you should be doing like no posing practice. This point you should do like one time a week, 2 times a week. I think it's from about 10 weeks out is when kind of the frequency starts picking up a little bit more, and shorter bouts of just more frequent posing, just to go through it. Because I think when you do it too far out, and I think you've had this with Jeff, where he was like, you're not in shape to really like know how you want your poses to look. I think
basically you told me that I'm fat.
There is a point at which you're so far out, there's no point. But I actually think getting the basics down far out is a good idea. So I kind of encourage people to start far out. Just get the basic, kind of know how to flare your lats, like how to get into the poses. Then the minor tweaks can happen as you get closer and closer. And you can start looking at people. And I get some of my clients to send me like bi-weekly check-ins of how they're looking. Because a lot of the time it's maybe we're adjusting macros, but more than likely it's just like posing tweaks. And it's kind of similar to peaking for a powerlifting meet. You want your technique kind of done before you get into your peaking mesocycle. Like, you're not going to change your technique in a peaking mesocycle, probably not even in the strength mesocycle before that.
No.
Like, you want to have done those changes miles out. So you kind of want to have a solid technique, and then it's only minor tweaks as you get closer to stage. So I think, 10 weeks out, posing more frequently, really just getting those minor details in is a good idea. But yeah, having a solid background is important.
And on that note, I mean, there are a lot of people out there or listening to this podcast who want to step on stage for the first time, or who are actually doing their contest prep now, but only started. for the first time competitor, is there some kind of recommendation for you, or where you say, okay, we start from 6 months already with only the mandatory poses, or I implement only one pose at a time for each given month so that they can get used to it and make sure that this actually is on point?
Yeah, I say as soon as you're starting kind of your prep, that's when you start to do your posing. So when you start your prep, you should probably have you're probably going to be 15% at most, or under that. So you'll have abs, you'll have some definition, so you'll look reasonable. And I think that's when you should start doing it once a week. And like at absolute most, once a week is absolutely fine. Just get comfortable with them. And I tend to, I actually want to do a blog post on this, and I set up my prep. So I had kind of like prep A, break, prep B. So the way I do it is kind of like, right, in this prep A, this is kind of like getting a lot of the groundwork done. And yeah, it's normally like one tweak to like one pose every single time we check in. So it's like neating things up. So then by the time they get to like their break, this is when I give them a bit of like freedom from posing, so they don't have to stress about practicing all the time. They just do it less frequently, and they kind of just maintain, like they're maintaining their body composition. They just maintain their posing. They don't really look to like nail it. But in this time, this is when they're picking their music, things like this. And then when they get into their second half of prep, which is like 12 weeks or something, this is when they're posing more frequently again, because they're going to see more frequent changes. We need those updates anyway. This is when they've already picked their music and they've got a bit of a routine that they can start implementing. So you can kind of actually, it's really cool. And this is going to be a huge blog post potentially, put like periodizing your entire contest prep, from nutrition to training to posing to like tan to exfoliation to all of these aspects. Like they all trickle in, because as something comes in, you have to remove something else. Like a stressor has to go. And as far as a lot of people go, like it's just like stress just goes up, ever escalating. Whereas we're kind of like going, yeah, we bring stresses up and then we bring it down through this kind of maintenance period where they're kind of chilling out a bit, and then you come back up. So kind of like, yeah, it's super fucking interesting actually when we talk about it and we actually think about all these little minute changes that we make. Man,
I really love periodizing. Like planning everything to the detail, to the smallest thing, planning out. Man, I already did my annual plan for next year. So, of course, it will always change based on how things are going. It is a flexible model, but I love actually planning things out and having a clear structure.
Yes.
In the back of your mind, right?
This is what we do for our clients, isn't it? Like, the more they can give us in terms of their goals, we can be like, right, I can actually plan the next 6 months for you right now.
It's funny because so many people, or not so many people, but some of my clients ask me about the long-term plan. And basically all I'm saying to them is most of the time, okay, I have a clear plan in front of me, but sharing it with you might be counterproductive to some extent, because it can be so flexible. It is, just to give you an example, Chrissy, my man, we are preparing him for a show in 3 years from now on. He finished his cut before he started with working with me, and we decided to do a long-term gaining phase. Now, after, I think we are at the 13 or 13, I think this is now week 13. And I thought in the beginning to actually do a mini cut after 12 weeks. But he's looking so good. He's made such a good progress in terms of putting on muscle mass. And there's a clear definition still going on, because he did a fantastic job in putting on muscle mass. With little to none is never going to happen, but really little fat gain. And now, of course, the whole plan and structure changes with it because of the progress he's made. But I had the plan in the back of my head. This would have been a scenario I thought of could happen, but now it turns out that we are actually still on track, and we will extend the gaining phase to another 12 weeks or so, and then we will do a short mini cut to then set himself up again for the next phase. And I mean, those plans are always flexible, and you never know what life throws at you.
Yeah.
And but having a kind of a plan, and also it is the same when it comes to business, running a business. You want to have a 5-year or 10-year plan, because otherwise, what are you really aiming for or working for? Because your preferences and also desires could then change on a daily or weekly basis based on your emotional state, and you want to take that out of the occasion, and you want to have a clear red line in front of you, which you can fall off from time to time, but it will eventually get you to your end goal, right?
Yeah, I mean, completely. And I think, especially for competitors like Chrissy, shout out to Chrissy, because we know he'll be watching. It's like Lisa Moore, my client.
Shout out.
Yeah, another shout out. She's like a year out from her show, but in fact, I like to have a year to plan, because then we can make sure, like, okay, you've not been dieting for this amount of time. We can actually plan in each of these phases. We can plan in when you've got holidays, when you've got like birthdays coming up, and we can make sure like deloads land where we want them to. Obviously, if injuries come up or anything like that, like we can manipulate it. But yeah, that's awesome. And I think we've actually come to 50 minutes, which I can't quite believe.
Holy
so I think,
shit.
How have we blabbed? Like, I had nothing to say, I thought.
Hey man, whenever I interview you, I just throw in some uneducational information, and I'm the one actually blabbing, and I'm sorry for that, guys. But that's
fuck's sake.
Shariana knows it. Another shout out to Shari, my girl in the US. She's always saying that the typical or the usual Pascal ramble when it comes to the check-ins.
I know you. I feel you. Yeah. They like our rambles. It's fine.
Totally.
Cool. So, right. Let's wrap it up.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, changes for me. There are no changes at the moment, unless, like, I'll be showing Pascal my updates on how my physique's going, but I think I'm looking better. Got my overreaching week next week, and then deloading. So, yeah, it's going to be... in that deload week, I've also got a wedding to go to and attend, so that's going to be a challenge, and we're talking about
the
that.
Summertime, no? I mean, so many weddings going on. Yesterday I was at a wedding party as well.
And we'll catch up on that next week. Cause that's
didn't go that well. Whiskey sour, let me tell you that. I'm on that note, so that the people get a clear image. I'm typically not drinking. I haven't been drinking since... I think the last time I was drinking some alcohol was in Tokyo in 2014. So it's that long ago. But this wedding party was simply a really good friend of mine from my school time. And also so many of my old mates, my old bandmates were there as well. So many of my old schoolmates, which I haven't seen for over 10 years. And this was kind of a really special occasion.
And with that, we will call it a day, I guess. A day, an episode. So thank you everyone for listening as always, and for supporting. Really, like I keep saying, keep an eye on kind of my Instagram and stuff, because I think things are going to be getting hopefully pretty interesting with my physique and the changes that are going to be happening there. Do let us know if you want a day of the life of eating, because that is something that we can definitely do, and kind of an explanation behind that, because I think
perhaps
might be
also a day of training or something.
Yeah, totally. If people we're up for ideas with this kind of show, or our YouTube channel in general can go wherever you want it to go. Obviously, this is for the YouTube channel, because you're not going to want to hear us just talk about our food choices and not see any of them. I don't think that might not be pleasurable.
So here we have the veggies. 350 grams. So side of it, we have roasted chicken breast.
And you'll just be listening like, yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, right. So I will talk to you guys soon. Yeah.
Yeah. Just a little plug here. Go and leave a review over at iTunes. Helps massively. And also, when you're listening to that here over at YouTube, leave a thumbs up. And we always appreciate you subscribing to the channel. That just, again, helps spreading the word the word. Sorry for that. Not the world, the word, and making the industry a better place. At least that's what I hope.
Cheers, guys. I've got to agree with all of that.